We want to talk to you about kind of a framework and what to consider when choosing a time to go on a cruise.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land. Here age relive fond memories of the past. And here youth may savor the challenge and promise of the future.
Welcome back, friends. I am Lisa.
I'm Lucas.
Congratulations. You have made the decision to go on a Disney Cruise Line vacation. And that, I'm speaking very confidently, but I am pretty sure that is your favorite vacation.
It's absolutely by far my favorite vacation. And if you're here right now, most likely you decided you want to go on a cruise, or you're trying to decide when should I go on a cruise. And so we want to help kind of give you a framework, some things to consider when thinking about the time of year to go on a Disney cruise.
Yeah. Now, there are some itineraries that are obviously going to lock you into a time. Like if you go to Alaska, you have a very limited number of months that you can take that cruise. But there are other cruises that Disney is running year round. And so if you have 365 days a year to go to the Caribbean, which day do you choose?
Yeah, so as you said, Alaska, what are we looking at in terms of a window of time? We're Canadian. We live right on the West Coast. We can see the cruise ships sail through the channel, through the Jervis Inlet up to Alaska. But what is kind of the time? What are you kind of locked into in terms of an Alaska cruise with
Yeah,
Disney?
so you're looking at May to September. It's gonna be kind of chilly on either end of those. But if you go like in September, you're gonna see that salmon run, which is kind of cool. If you go in May, you might see some more of the migration of different whale pods. And so kind of take that into consideration. If you go in the middle, we've never been to Alaska, but what I am told is that it's pretty temperate. You can get away with like jeans and a t-shirt or a long sleeve shirt. You're not going to be really cold. You're not going to have just those like parkas in mind when you go to Alaska, but you can't go wrong. You're going because you want to see those glaciers, which is going to be cold when you're by those icebergs.
And they do adjust. They adjust some of the heat, some of the water in the pools, and different things. They make some adjustments for the climate in which they're trying to create environments for you.
Yeah, so that you can enjoy all of the amenities of the ship, even though you're in a colder climate. So with that, you're locked in with the Panama Canal. You're locked in with some of the repositioning cruises. You're locked in. Again, the transatlantic repositioning down to Europe and back, you're gonna be locked in terms of when Disney is offering those cruises specifically.
So explain a repositioning cruise for those that may not know.
So a repositioning cruise is when a cruise line wants to get their ships from one itinerary down to another itinerary. So for the most part, it's when they're doing like the Mexico, Baja cruises to the Alaska cruises. They'll sail from San Diego up to Vancouver and then vice versa. They'll go back. We see
at the end of the season.
At the end of the season. Yeah, it's kind of bookmarking each season. So we see that with the transatlantic cruises going from some of the Caribbean sailings in Florida over to Europe and back. And then we see that also with the Panama Canal going from some of the cruises typically, or like lately it's been Galveston kind of area, and they'll do the Panama Canal over to the West Coast and then they'll go back down to the East Coast for the winter.
Okay, so we talked Alaska, we talked repositioning. You're kind of stuck with those in terms of the schedule.
Some of the special itineraries.
Now there are other cruises, they're running all year long. What are some considerations on those kind of experiences?
Yeah. So you are going to want to think about the price you're wanting to pay. Disney Cruise Line has a very limited number of ships. And so as those ships fill up, the price also increases, which means they can set their starting room rates for cruises that are happening around a holiday or while kids are out of school, like spring break, summer holidays, those kinds of things, a little bit higher than they will when families are less able to take their students out of school. So if you have a family, that is something you want to consider. Are you willing to take your kids out of school to go on a cruise that's going to be just a little bit less expensive for the same experience as it would be if you went on kind of a more holiday experience?
Okay, so time of year, school being in would be a good indicator that possibly you can get
Possibly prices are coming down for you, and you're going to be able to get that same sailing a little bit lower.
Now on the flip side, if you don't have kids and you don't have the restrictions of a school calendar, might be a little bit of a hack to go when the little ones are stuck in school, because it may be a little bit cheaper and the ships may
be a little bit quieter. We love the laughter. We love the children. Let them have fun. But it might be just a smidgen quieter on your sailing. Now, again, there are some trade-offs when you think about going in those off seasons. The Caribbean might not be as warm when you go in those off seasons. Now, for us, coming from Canada, the Caribbean is always warm.
It's always warm. Always, even when
We're fine.
Even when it's cold, it's warm.
Yeah, we were at Castaway Cay, which is Disney's private island, and people were like, we don't want to go swimming. The water's so cold. And it was lovely.
It was beautiful.
It was wonderful. So if you're coming from Canada or a colder climate, don't worry about it.
Or you're one of those cold plunge freaks, you're good to go. It's all good.
If you can cold plunge, you can swim in the Atlantic, I promise. So that might be a little bit of a trade-off. Now, ironically, over those peak seasons where the kids are out is hurricane season.
Yes.
And so you might want to take that into consideration too. Hurricane season officially runs June to November, but we are seeing some tropical storms kind of popping up a little bit earlier recently. And so Disney will take care of you absolutely if you travel within those seasons. But it may mean that what was your port of call is no longer your port of call. You might have to go to a different island or skip it all together and have a sea day, because Disney is going to take your safety as their foremost concern over what your itinerary was. So just keep that in mind if you are booking in that hurricane season, that you're kind of booking with an asterisk.
Yes.
This is my itinerary, asterisk.
If you know anything about Disney, you know that their number one value is safety. Yeah. And so they're going to take that very, very seriously, even if it means kind of switching up your itinerary.
Yeah. And they're great. They add things in, and they're like, they'll take care of you, absolutely. Don't worry about that. But you might see some things happen. So we have traveled twice on a cruise during hurricane season, and it has not affected our cruise negatively. We had a few shows that were moved inside for the safety of the performers. But you know what? We still had a great time. It was still magical.
It was awesome. Yeah, they did a great job of pivoting and making things a little different, but still a lot of magic, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have heard stories of people who have had cruises go longer than expected or shorter, and Disney was amazing at contacting airlines and kind of trying to work with airlines to make sure that they were safe and able to get out as they were safe to do so. And so again, put your heart at ease regardless of where you travel or when you travel, because Disney they're the service king for a reason. They're gonna take care of you.
Okay, so Disney cruise, we talked Alaska, set calendar. We talked the kind of off season or the like kind of slower times. So considering weather, considering budget, any of the considerations when it comes to kind of creating a framework for when do I go on this cruise?
Yeah, so Disney has special sailings that are really fun. So they have Marvel Day at Sea, Pixar Day at Sea, Star Wars Day at Sea, but then they also have Halloween on the high seas and their Christmas sailings. And all of those are incredibly themed, incredibly different. Up until recently, Disney only had a fleet of 4 ships. They had the Magic, the Wonder, the Dream, and the Fantasy. And we've seen the Wish come on board in the past year, and the Treasure set to sail next year, as well as the Disney Adventure. But up until that point, if you were a sailor who had sailed multiple times with Disney, you were probably sailing the same ship over and over and over and over again. And so one of the answers to that for Disney was to add in these special sailings where they take an entire day, they bring out rare characters, all of the activities are centered around that theme. Even your menu at dinner is going to be based around Marvel, Star Wars, or Pixar. It is very, very fun. Now, to take that even up a notch, because those are they're special sailings, but they're one day kind of events on one of your sea days. Those Halloween and Christmas sailings, the entire ship is decorated. For your Halloween on the high seas sailings, you are going to have a trick-or-treating kind of thing happening in your atrium. People go all out. They have just special like sing-alongs. They have Jack Skellington and Sally out. They have some really neat Halloween offerings on those sailings, and same with Christmas. They have Santa and Mrs. Claus out on the ship. Even Castaway Cay gets completely decorated for Christmas. And so that is really a fun thing if you have been on those Disney cruises like for a few different times, to shake it up. And then if you go on one of those specific, like you're there on Thanksgiving Day, you're there on Christmas Day, you will have a special holiday meal added into your menu that night. And I have also heard that there are special gifts that do get dropped off in staterooms if you're there for that Christmas sailing from Santa himself.
So I'm gonna guess that something to consider with that then is the sailings are going to be booked up a little more than just like the parks. If you go to on Christmas or Halloween, it's kind of peak season, higher crowds. Are we talking fuller boats typically during those seasons?
You are talking fuller boats typically during those seasons. Now, again, because Disney Cruise Line is such a limited fleet in terms of the number of boats or ships that they do have, you are seeing them typically running higher capacity sailings than maybe some other sailings. So it might not feel any different, because I think with the exception of one, every sailing we have gone on has been at full capacity.
Yeah.
And it has never felt like a full capacity.
Yeah,
Disney does a great job.
They do a great job of giving enough on the ships to disperse the crowds in a way that you don't feel like you're like living on top of each other for a week or 4 days or 7 days or 10 days.
Yeah, we've never had the experience where you're trying to like circle for hours trying to find a lounge chair, any of that. We've always found that it felt, you knew there were people there, but it never felt like you were packed like sardines onto this ship. And so yes, it will book up. It will book up faster than maybe some other sailings, but to find a sailing that is booked to capacity is not an uncommon thing for Disney Cruise Line. But you probably do want to make your decision to go once those sailings open. So Disney Cruise Line typically releases itineraries about 18 months in advance, give or take a little bit. And you're gonna get, number one, your best price if you book that far out, but you'll also get your best selection of cabin. And for those sailings that do book up fast, you have that peace of mind.
So you do have to be a bit of a planner. And if you're not a planner, we would highly recommend get a Disney specific travel agent to help you.
Yeah.
Because that's gonna make a world of a difference. If you're a planner, go for it. But if you're not and you need some help, highly recommend. It would be no cost to you to do that.
Yeah.
We've done it every single time for the last few years.
Yeah.
It's just taken a load off. And so we would highly recommend that as a thing.
In addition, some Disney travel agents will even give you onboard credit. So it doesn't cost you anything, and it might even give you something to use their services on top of the peace of mind of allowing them to take care of the details.
Awesome. So considering time of some of the cruises, some aren't all year long.
Yeah.
Alaska, some of the repositioning cruises. Then considering just weather, considering the themes. If you've cruised a few times and you're kind of like, I'd like something a little new, a little kind of novel, then consider a theme, but you are going to have to book a little bit further out. And if you are on some of those higher capacity, just as a bonus, book your excursions and some of your experiences well in advance, because the more people on your ship, the more those slots are going to fill up.
It's true.
So something to think about.
Yeah. So I hope that this has been helpful. If it has, would you do us a huge favor and click that like button, that subscribe button, and share this with a friend. Also, we would love to hear, what is the itinerary that Disney Cruise Line does that's on your bucket list to do? I know for me, I am itching to do Alaska. I would love to see those glaciers up close and personal.
Well, guys, we're Maple Mickey. We hope that this has helped put the magic back into your Disney vacation planning, and we'll see you next time.